गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्री श्री राधा माधवाश्रय सखी की जय राधा श्याम सुंदर ललिता विशाखा की जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की जय गौर निताय की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Can you see the verse? Or does the screen still show my PowerPoint? Kwaku, can you see my verse? Can't hear you, you're unmuted, but 7.3, can you see that?
That's what I see. BG 7.3, knowledge of the absolute.
Oh, okay, let me share again. Share screen. Share. Can you see the entire verse now?
Yes, now I can see it.
Okay. Do you think you can repeat after me?
I'm driving at the moment, so it'll be difficult. I just need to join in and give it a listen.
Okay.
Normally at this time of the evening, I'm working.
Okay. Manusyanam sahasreshu
मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु
kaschid yatati siddhaye
कश्चिद् यतति सिद्धये
yatataamapi siddhanam
यततामपि सिद्धानां
kaschin mam vetti tatvataha
कश्चिन् मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
Manusyanam sahasreshu
मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु
kaschid yatati siddhaye
कश्चिद् यतति सिद्धये
yatataamapi siddhanam
यततामपि सिद्धानां
kaschin mam vetti tatvataha
कश्चिन् मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
Manusyanam sahasreshu
मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु
kaschid yatati siddhaye
कश्चिद् यतति सिद्धये
yatataamapi siddhanam
यततामपि सिद्धानां
kaschin mam vetti tatvataha.
कश्चिन् मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
Would you like to chant, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु
Manusyanam sahasreshu
कश्चिद् यतति सिद्धये
kaschid yatati siddhaye
यततामपि सिद्धानां
yatataamapi siddhanam
कश्चिन् मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
kaschid mam vetti tatvataha. Anyone else would like to chant? So let's do the synonyms. Manushyanam
मनुष्याणां
of men,
of men,
Sahasreshu,
Sahasreshu,
out of many thousands.
out of many thousands.
Kaschit,
Kaschid,
someone.
someone.
Yatati,
Yatati,
endeavors.
endeavors.
Siddhaye,
Siddhaye,
for perfection.
for perfection.
Yatatam,
Yatatam,
of those so endeavoring.
of those so endeavoring.
Api,
Api,
indeed.
indeed.
Siddhanam,
Siddhanam,
of those who have achieved perfection.
of those who have achieved perfection.
Kaschit,
Kaschit,
someone.
someone.
Mam,
Mam,
me,
me.
veti,
Vetti,
does know.
does know.
Tatvataha,
Tatvataha,
in fact.
in fact.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, and hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripada Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy. But when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12101, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpatayaiva Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Muhyanti yat suraya. Mam tu vedana kasyana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And if one does know him, then sa mahatma sudurlabha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, tatvataha. even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna. His being the cause of all causes, his omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said, Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriyai sevonmukhe jihvadau swayameva spuratyadaha. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2-234. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let me show my PowerPoint. Can you see my slides?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So we are on text 3 today of chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute. So in this, Srila Prabhupada begins by saying that people, they're not so interested in pursuing for perfection. They're only interested in materialistic things. They're interested in big houses. They're interested in partying, going to restaurants and movies, vacations. They want to earn a lot of money. They do like 2 jobs. I know many people who do 2 jobs. They go work at a company, they come back and they work for their own company, or they do a part-time job. So people are endeavoring so hard for artha, for money. And then after that, they want to enjoy their senses, kama. There is not even a mention of dharma in this age. People don't want to accomplish artha through dharma. It could be any means. Whatever means will give you money, that's what you'll go for. That's the way the world is going. This is because of avidya. Everybody, they are afflicted by this disease called avidya, ignorance, like Nectar of Instruction says. So perfection is something like a sugar candy. Endeavoring for perfection is like sugar candy. Devotional service is like sugar candy. But if a person is afflicted with jaundice, then even sugar candy doesn't taste sweet. It tastes bitter. So they don't want to eat the sugar candy as well. If a person is in ignorance, then these endeavors for perfection, they don't appeal to them. It feels like a bitter thing to do. So from that, Srila Prabhupada says, hardly anyone endeavors for perfection. Out of thousands of people, one may endeavor. for perfection. And out of so many people who endeavor for perfection, some people may become perfect. But even among those people who became perfect, even among many of those people who became perfect, hardly one knows me in truth. That's how rare it is to know Krishna. So there is this verse which says that only by bhakti you can know me. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. There could be many different ways of accomplishing perfection, but they don't really tell you what Krishna is. One may become a perfect being, but they may not know who Krishna is. But one who has devotion for Krishna, he knows. How? By the mercy of Krishna. Because Krishna reveals himself to him, that's how he knows. One may be very perfect in all the Vedic scriptures. Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. So through the Vedas, you may not know Krishna. Unless you are endeavoring to know him, you may not really know Krishna by studying the Vedas. Vedas mainly deal with the karma kanda rituals. So there is one story that Srila Prabhupada says in this connection. Narada Muni, he has a free pass to go anywhere. He can go to any planet. So once he comes to the earthly planet, and then he sees a Brahmana. And then the Brahmana asks him, Narada Muni, can you please ask the Lord, when can I go back to Godhead? Then Narada Muni says, okay, when I go see him next, I'll ask him. And then while passing by, he also sees a cobbler. And the cobbler asks, okay, my birth is not so great. I'm engaged in this Shudra business, but can you please ask the Lord, when can I go back home, back to Godhead? So Narada Muni says, okay. And when he goes next time to Goloka Vrindavan, he asks the Lord that these two people, they are asking when they can go back to Godhead, when they can come back to you. Then the Lord says, Brahmana maybe in a few lifetimes, but the cobbler can come back in this life. So he hears that, but he gets really surprised. He didn't know how that could be possible. So he asks the Lord, how is it possible? Brahmana is engaged in all these religious activities and cobbler is not. So how come there is a delay in his spiritual advancement? Then the Lord says, you'll understand if you tell them this thing. When you go back to talk to them, they'll ask what I was doing when you met me. So you should tell them that I'm threading an elephant through the eye of the needle. So the Lord asks Narada Muni to tell them that he's threading a big elephant through the small eye of the needle. Then Narada Muni says, okay. And then when he goes back again, Brahmana was very happy because he would know now how long it would take for him to go back home. So Brahmana asks Narada Muni that, did you get a chance to ask the Lord, when will I go back home? Then he says, in a few lifetimes, you'll go back home. Then Brahmana was a little disappointed, but he wanted to ask more. He's like, what is the Lord doing? Like when you went, what was he doing? Then Narada Muni tells him that he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. And then Brahmana dismisses it. How can anybody thread an elephant through the eye of the needle? You must not have even seen the Lord. You are just making up all these things. I should go back in this very lifetime. Why would I even wait? I don't believe that you're really genuine. That's the conclusion he comes to. And then Narada Muni passes on and he meets the cobbler. And the cobbler asks him, did you get a chance to ask the Lord, when can I go back home? Then Narada Muni tells, I think the Lord will take you back in this very life. And the cobbler was very happy. And he asks, what is the Lord doing? Can I know? Then Narada Muni says, he's threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. Then the cobbler believes it. Then Narada Muni asks, like, no one can do that. Why do you think the Lord is doing that? Then he tells that if he can place this huge banyan tree in a small seed, he can thread an elephant through the eye of the needle. He can do anything. The Lord is the supreme controller and the master of everybody, and he has all the opulences, all the energies are under his control, so he can do anything. So that's the realization that the cobbler has. So he knows the activities, the pastimes of the Lord are transcendental. People who put the Lord in the material vision that they have, they are not completely realized yet. A devotee knows very well that the Lord can do anything, and he accepts the Lord in such a way. So that's why he could go back, like Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, whoever knows that my birth, activities, janma karma, chame divyam, whoever knows that they are transcendental, tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti. For them, after they quit their body, there is no punarjanma. So if someone can clearly understand that, they can achieve perfection, they can accomplish perfection. There is also one more story, similar story in Krishna book. Can anyone guess what it would be? It's the story of wives of Brahmanas' wives. So let's go through that story. So one morning, all the cowherd boys, they go to the forest. For some reason, they didn't have their breakfast that morning. And they're playing and they're taking care of the cows. And after some time, they become really hungry. And they go to Krishna and Balaram. They say, you are so powerful, Krishna and Balaram. You kill so many demons. And now we have this hunger. Can you please arrange something for us? Can we have some prasadam to eat? So when the friends ask like that, Krishna knows that there are these Brahmanas performing Vedic rituals nearby, and the devotees are the Brahmanas' wives, and he wanted to show some mercy to them. And then he says, there are some Brahmanas nearby, they are performing some austerities, some Vedic sacrifices to go to heavenly planets. That's the result they want to accomplish because of performing those sacrifices. And all of you please go and you tell them that Balaram is in need of some food. Don't tell my name because they are not Vaishnavas. They don't understand that I am the Supreme Lord. I am actually like known as the son of Vaishya because I am known as the son of Nanda Maharaj. But Balaram, everyone knows he is the son of Vasudeva. So he's a Kshatriya and people may be obliged to fulfill his desires. So just go tell them that Balaram wants some charity. Balaram wants some food. So after Krishna tells, the boys, they go, all the cowherd boys, they go to the Brahmanas and they pay obeisances, and with folded hands, they ask, oh, earthly gods, they address them like earthly gods, and kindly hear us. So we are ordered by Balaram to come here. They are tending, like Krishna and Balaram are tending cows nearby, and they want some food from you. So you all are Brahmanas, you know the religious principles. If you think you can give charity, then please give us some food. We'll eat along with Krishna and Balaram. So these boys, they know when they can take the food, during this Vedic sacrifices. There are certain times at which they can take, and after that time they cannot take. So this was the right time, and they asked at the right time. But the thing is, these Brahmanas, they were so immersed in their Vedic ritualistic sacrifices. They heard the voice, but they did not want to even acknowledge that they heard, what to speak of giving them what they want. But these people, they did not want to even acknowledge. That's the situation of a person who's immersed in sense gratification. Although they are trying to perform this religious activity, the ultimate goal of the religious activity is their own sense pleasure. It wasn't for the welfare of others. It wasn't for the spiritual upliftment of themselves or others. They were only interested in their own sense gratification. That's how the sense gratification makes a person. He's not even being able to acknowledge as a minimum etiquette. So they just simply ignored the boys. They didn't even respond. So after that, the boys again go back to Krishna, and then they tell them, they were very sad. They tell them that, these Brahmanas, they did not even respond. Then Krishna says, when you are asking for charity, sometimes you will get a no. You should not be disappointed. When you're begging, you can't be disappointed. I can give you one suggestion. The wives of those Brahmanas who are engaged in sacrifices, they are great devotees and they always think about me. And you go ask them in my name for charity and the name of Balaram. I'm sure they'll deliver you as much food as you desire. They'll give you as much as you want. So now the kids, the cowherd boys, they immediately go to the wives of the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are sitting, the wives of the Brahmanas are sitting outside of their house, and the boys offer obeisances and they ask, dear mothers, Krishna and Balaram are nearby, and we came to inform you that. And we are with the cows and we are hungry. If you can give us some food, we'll eat with Krishna and Balaram. Then immediately after hearing this, the wives of the Brahmanas, they became very anxious for Krishna and Balaram. They didn't have to be convinced or anything. They just were ready to serve the Lord as soon as they heard. Because they are thinking of Krishna constantly, that is the greatest form of meditation. And immediately they fill all the different pots with nice food, and they collected everything and they set out to go to see Krishna. When they were leaving home, their husbands, fathers, and sons and relatives, they all say, don't go. You need to be here for the sacrifice. But because Krishna is calling, they left. They didn't hear anything all the men were saying. And they went to the banks of Yamuna and they saw Krishna and Balaram. When they could see Krishna and Balaram, they were like so melted in ecstasy. They were so ecstatic. They could see this beautiful blackish body of Krishna. His ears are decorated with some flowers. He's holding a lotus flower. He has marks of tilak and he's smiling charmingly. So with their eyes, it's like they're drinking the nectar. Their minds are always absorbed in him, and now they could see him face to face. So they're very happy. They're very ecstatic. So now they feed Krishna to their heart's content. They give Krishna, Balaram, and all the cowherd boys all the food they got. They feed them. And then after that, Krishna tells, now that you have served me, you should go back home. And then you continue your household duties at your home. Then they say, we left everybody and came because you called. We did not even listen to our husbands and we came. Now when we go back, maybe they will not be very happy Maybe they won't accept us back. Then Krishna says, don't worry, rest assured that your husbands will not neglect you on your return. They won't refuse you because you are my pure devotees. Everyone will be satisfied with you. So then they go back, and by then all the Brahmanas, they realized their mistake. They are doing all these Vedic sacrifices, and at the end of every sacrifice it is mentioned that everything is being done for the pleasure of Krishna. Generally people don't even hear that. If some religious function is going on, no one hears what's being said by the Brahmana. If they do, then everything makes sense, but generally people don't understand what's happening and they don't hear. But in every religious performance, it is there that everything is being done to satisfy Lord Vishnu, Yajna or Krishna. So now they understood, after the wives left, they understood that they made a mistake. When Krishna wanted something, if you don't give and you're doing this huge sacrifice to satisfy Krishna, they don't go together. Your actual interest is actually not to satisfy Krishna. That's what is proven, because you didn't do anything towards that. So they realized that, and then when the wives came back, they were actually very proud of their wives, how surrendered they are to the Lord and how much they have interest to please the Lord. And they began to condemn themselves that everything they have is not pure. To hell with our life as Brahmanas, to hell with our Vedic literature, to hell with our learning, to hell with our great sacrifices. When Krishna wanted something, we couldn't reciprocate. So Krishna is only conquered by transcendental loving devotional service. He is not conquered by all these Vedic knowledge or rituals and karma kanda. He doesn't come under control of all these things. So they were regretful, and they were fine with what the wives did. They were actually very happy with what their wives did. But the unfortunate thing is, although they knew that Krishna was right there, they could still not go to see Krishna. Why? Does anyone know? Why they could not go?
Because they were not pure devotees.
Yes, but they could just go see, right? Now they realized that they did a mistake. They can go see Krishna and ask for apology or something. Why didn't they go?
Because they're not pure enough to see Lord Krishna.
Yeah, but they were also afraid of Kamsa. They thought, what would happen if Kamsa knows that we went there? So this is the plight of, in general, any karmi, you know. Sometimes if we preach to somebody, they get really afraid. Oh my gosh, if I take up Krishna consciousness, I have to leave all these things. I have to leave eating meat, I have to leave, drinking and all those things. So they get really afraid. So anybody who's attached to material things, they may not want to fully surrender. And if they know that this path takes you there, then they may not want to get into this path. So this is the condition of people who are materially motivated, materially interested. So that's why it becomes very hard. Like you said, when there is not enough purity, even to go see Krishna is not possible. You have all different excuses, all different fears that you may have. So to become a pure devotee is the means for knowing Krishna. But there can be many impediments to become a pure devotee. So Nectar of Instruction, it says that one who can control the senses, he can make disciples all over the world. That's the beginning step for towards becoming a pure devotee, is to control the senses. So there are different ways that one can control the senses. Does anyone know the first shloka of Nectar of Instruction? Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam.
Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udara pasta vegam, etan vegam, visheheta dhira, sarvamati I forgot, pirthim sasishyat.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Very good. So we have to control our senses. We have to control the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals, and that's how we start the path of devotional service. In one of the purports in first canto, third chapter, Srila Prabhupada says that one who is not pure in activities, one who is not pure in using his senses, they cannot be pure in their mind. One who is not pure in their mind, they cannot understand, they cannot get the realization of Srimad Bhagavatam. So knowing Janma Karma in reality means to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is what describes Krishna's birth, activities, pastimes along with his devotees. If we can understand that nicely, that means we are going back to Godhead. If we can realize it perfectly, that means we are going back to Godhead. And for that, the beginning step is to control the senses. So how do we control our speech? Any ideas? Everyone has a power to speak, but how do we control that? So as soon as we get an opportunity to speak, we shouldn't just speak all the rubbish, nonsense. You see, when people gather in India, especially, they start speaking about politics, what's going on in the movies, movie actors and politics and some local gossip and all those things. That's not how we should use the power of speaking. We should use it to glorify Krishna, to speak about Krishna, not speaking about nonsense. Speaking nonsense is like, the frogs making sounds. When the frog makes sound, the snake knows where it is and comes and swallows it. That's how it is if we speak nonsense. If we engage the speech in Krishna's service, then it is controlled. We have to speak about Krishna when we speak. And then how can we control the mind? We have heard it many, many times. Yes, Kwaku.
Hey, how you doing? So I parked for a few minutes. I just wanted to, throw in my voice. I apologize for not being able to participate, but
No problem.
work comes and we have to, try to juggle both together.
Yes.
So I just wanted to comment on the previous question you just asked, how we, control what we say.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying that my mother always used to say when I was a child, and she said, "Hand that gives is better than the hand that receives." And in the same way, when you apply it to, the sense faculties like talking, I would say the ears that listen are better than the lips that speak. So it's better to be a listener than a talker. You can't control what people will do, but you can control yourself. If we're talking about controlling the senses. So when people are engaged in chatter around you, that is maybe not beneficial. There's nothing wrong with listening, as long as you are being careful about you're not contributing and being silent. People may be like, why are you silent? But let that be your nature, to only speak when you have something very profound to say, and keep a silent nature, because one who does not know how to be quiet is the one that's going to go around engaging in unnecessary things. But if you keep a nature to be just a silent person, then you avoid talking unless you think it is something that will benefit somebody else. Because if you talk for yourself, you already know what you're saying. The only time we should really be speaking is to be able to benefit people. And as Christ says in the Bible, it's not what goes into a man or a woman that destroys them, but it's what comes out of them. And that's pretty much the law of karma. And I'm just saying that just to go back to say that you can be around people that may not necessarily be engaging in, chatter that is beneficial, but that does not harm you. It's what comes out of you that will harm you. Sorry, that's
Yeah,
it.
nice points. Yeah, I agree. What comes out of your mouth might harm you. Um, even the scriptures say that in anger, if you speak, then it may not be nice for the rest of the life sometimes. So I agree on that. And the other point is we may be around people who may speak something different, but it may be a temporary thing that we may do out of, if we go somewhere and we are stuck in some conversation, we'll try to not be around that conversation which may not spiritually benefit us. Even Mormons, in the Northwest, there are a lot of Mormons. So they don't go to bars, even at work. If there are some Mormons, if there is some work related dinner or party at a bar, they don't go. Just like Krishna conscious devotees, they don't go to a place where people drink, because the association matters. If we engage, like if we are in the association of people who do bad things, eventually that association will also enter into us, and we may develop desires in that association. So we try to avoid such association, and when it so happens that we can't avoid, uh, then we may not engage mentally or with the words or anything in that
And
particular association.
And I just want to chip in here a little bit. I understand that,
Mhm.
and it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's so many paths, in my opinion, to get to one solution. One solution is maybe somebody say, "Hey, I'm trying to get to the number 4." Somebody says add 2 and 2. Somebody says add 3 and 1. You know what I mean? It's different paths, but while you were saying that, something popped into my head. Sometimes we are sorry about sometimes we are placed based on our karma. We are placed in a situation or situations where perpetually we have to deal with situations where what's coming from the environment necessarily may not be where we want to be, you know what I mean? But
Yes.
we have to know how to adjust to it.
Yes.
And if you take that, you can take the approach where it's like, I am going to try to associate myself with people so that in a place or people so that I can be guarded properly. It's great. You have to know yourself and know where you are at, how strong you are, and know what temptations you cannot succumb to, so that in your building your strength, you don't fall back, completely. But also, let's remember that, and I hate to be preaching, but just, something's popped into my head. Let's remember that in the same Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that one who is unperturbed by happiness or distress is one in perfect knowledge. So we really need to be gearing towards knowing how to deal with these circumstances anytime they present themselves. Hiding from the circumstance will not make you strong enough to deal with it when your karma puts you in a position when you have to deal with it.
Yes, yes, I agree. So we have to be strong enough to tolerate when the situation presents itself, like you said to us.
So associate with devotees all the time, but give yourself some adjustment to know how to deal with it when your karma puts you in a position where you don't find yourself in devotees, especially when your karma makes it an extended period for you. Like you
Yes.
travel away from your
Yeah,
family.
yeah, I agree that we need to be strong enough, and devotees would be as they develop. But in the initial stages, they shouldn't seek such association. They shouldn't put themselves in those places where they have to constantly hear about something else, or where they have to see all these forbidden activities. So if
Correct.
we avoid those, then our strength will build up. Otherwise, it's
Correct.
like we are trying to light the fire and we are also trying to put water at the same time. So we need to be careful enough until the fire is lit properly. And at that time, a devotee can go anywhere and he can be like a water drop on the lotus leaf. Even if he is in water, he's not affected by it. Like the lotus leaf never gets wet. So that
Right.
comes, but not in the beginning.
Right. I agree with you because you have to build your spiritual strength at a
Yes.
point in time. Otherwise, you know, you need to at least even know that you have to build your strength, you know what I mean, and start with. And so I agree with you completely about that. And I'm actually doing that now. Like I used to live in Florida and I moved to Connecticut because something inside me, the master within, maybe it's the Lord Krishna or you know the Atman or the paramatma, however we want to describe it, something moved me from Florida to Connecticut. I didn't know it yet, but when I got here and I saw the spiritual evolution that was taking place in me, I realized I would never have achieved that in Florida because I didn't even know that I needed spiritual growth. But some way, somehow, when my location changed, they started. So even though I have responsibilities in Florida and I have to go back, I'm like, okay, I'm not going there until I know I'm strong enough.
Okay. So we'll continue with the different senses and how to control. The tongue can be controlled by eating prasadam. We have to only eat prasadam, and Prabhupada mentions in that purport that not in restaurants or sweet meat shops, but just take only prasadam. And then the rest is about mind. Flickering mind can be controlled when we engage it in thinking about the lotus feet of the Lord. So if we engage each sense in the service of the Lord, like, nose in smelling the flowers offered to the Lord or the incense that is offered to the Lord, like that, there are many instructions in the scriptures which will help us on how we can control different senses. And once we control the senses, then controlling the mind will also become easy. If we keep eating whatever and if we think that the mind is not controlled, it's not a nice proposition. I mean, like, we need to control the tongue first and then the mind will be controlled automatically. If we chant and if we think of Krishna and if we hear, then mind will be controlled automatically, and then intelligence will eventually get purified and false ego will disappear. When all these things happen, then we will become perfect. And when we become perfect, then we become eligible to go back to Godhead. So there are many people following different paths. Many people endeavor to realize God. Out of them, Srila Prabhupada gave in the purport 3 kinds of people. People who may endeavor to know Brahman. Brahman is the all-pervading aspect of Krishna. Even Shukadeva Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam, actually the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is a prelude to the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So it gives the situation in which Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken, the background. So at the end of first canto, Parikshit Maharaj asks Shukadeva Goswami, please tell me what is the duty of a person who's about to leave his body. So at that time, Shukadeva Goswami begins. So Srimad Bhagavatam begins from second canto. So the first chapter of second canto is Brahman realization, realizing Krishna as Brahman. In that chapter, Shukadeva Goswami explains various things about universal form, how various demigods are different parts of Krishna's universal form, and how different things like sun and moon are like two eyes of the Lord, and the trees are like hair on the body of the Lord. So when we understand all these things, when we look at the nature, we know that Krishna's energy is pervading everywhere. So Srila Prabhupada also oftentimes in his lectures, he tells that whenever you look at anything, it should remind you of Krishna. Like if we look at a beautiful flower, we can see how Krishna created such beautiful things. To draw one flower, it may take so much time for us, but it may not be even anywhere close to the real flower. In its beauty, there is no smell for the flower that we may draw, and the texture and everything. Krishna created this world perfectly, like it looks so good and the water tastes so good. So Prabhupada keeps telling about all these examples so that we can come to that stage of realizing that everything is the energy of the Lord. And that stage is called Brahman realization. But that's not complete realization. It is the beginning realization, beginning of Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan is the ultimate realization. So beginning of that realization is Brahman. And there is also the second step, which is called paramatma realization. So paramatma realization is that realization which tells us that everybody is dear to Krishna. In everyone's heart, there is Krishna. There is Krishna in the heart of an animal. There is Krishna in the heart of a Chandala or Shudra. There is Krishna in the heart of a Brahmana. There is Krishna in the heart of a tree. So when we realize that Krishna is there in everyone's heart and we treat everyone accordingly, that is called Paramatma realization. Paramatma, there is a beautiful description of Paramatma also in Srimad Bhagavatam. He's 6 inches long in the heart of a human being, and he has this beautiful color, and he has 4 arms like you can see in the slide, and he's holding his Shankha Chakra Gada Padma in 4 hands, and he's always there for a living entity. And he is the one who oversees and permits whatever we do. And he's the witness for all our activities. And he is the witness of what we think also. So he knows the inside out of us. No one else knows as much as Paramatma knows. And he is the dearmost for us because he never leaves us in spite of us never turning to him and experimenting with this material energy. We are going from body to body and place to place, planet to planet. We may have different relatives, different mother, father, wife, children in each lifetime, but there is only one super soul, and he has been with us forever, and he will be with us in the future also. So establishing our relationship with him is something that is everlasting. Establishing relationships with anyone else in the material world may not last forever. So coming to that conclusion and meditating on him, yogis, they realize Paramatma. So after that realization is the Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan realization is the realization that we are the servants of Krishna and he's existing in his planet Goloka Vrindavan eternally. And we are supposed to go there and serve him. That is our eternal constitutional position, and we'll only be happy when we do that. We'll be the happiest when we do that. So we should endeavor for that and then go to that Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan realization is the ultimate realization. And the path for that is executing transcendental loving service. And for that, we have to cleanse our senses, become purified. And with the purified senses, we can execute transcendental loving service. Just like Srila Prabhupada said in the purport, with the blunt material senses, we cannot see Krishna. We cannot serve Krishna. For us to be able to serve, we need to first get purified. So that's the way to go to accomplish perfection and know Krishna. I will stop here. Any questions? We have 1 minute only.
I just want to say thank you, and you are a great storyteller as well.
Oh, thank you. It's Srila Prabhupada's books, Mercy, that we read from Krishna book, and Krishna book is great. Do you have Krishna book with you?
No, I've just been, YouTube gives me a lot of information now. I listen and, during the day, but I don't have any books at the moment. I won't lie. The only book I had, I left, in Ghana some years ago, was the Mahabharata. We have a family version that.
So you don't have Bhagavad Gita with you?
Well, not the physical book, but I do listen to it several times on, the English version. And I look at it as the same, because to be able to sit and read, time doesn't, offer me. I drive a lot during the day for work.
Yeah, there are some audio books also in prabhupadavani.org.
I think it was Brother Ganapati. I spoke to him, and then when I explained to him the one I've been listening to on YouTube, I think he confirmed that was the okay one for me to listen to.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All good. I'm not trying to question anyone, but really want to understand that in Narayana's story, when you said regarding Brahmana, it is difficult for me to understand that how he goes back and comes back and Brahmana is still there, because in the, I think, Jagannath Puri pastime, when King, I think Pratap Rudra, I'm not sure regarding name, but he also went to higher planets, but when he came back, everything was different. So Narad Muni, I understand, has power to transmigrate between three worlds, but can he transmigrate like right away? Is that's also true?
Maybe, because it's not like there is no time factor in the spiritual world. You can, because here the time is linear. So we tend to think in terms of linear time. If we go somewhere and come back, obviously the time elapsed. But in the spiritual world, if you want to be in the same time frame, you can be, because it's not controlled by time. So that's just my scientific rationale, but I just heard it from Prabhupada and said the same thing. So probably Narada Muni could do it.
Thank you, Mataji.
No problem. Okay, it's 8:02, so we'll stop here. Thank you all so much for your association. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.